Hello everybody, today we're back with another Sony picture premiere, Sony Pictures. Their second big movie of the year after Madam Web. So Aiden, what is the plot of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire?
Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is a sequel to Ghostbusters Aftermath with Paul Rudd. And after spending the first 15 minutes of the movie explaining what happened in the first movie, which is really embarrassing, but also was helpful because I didn't remember a fucking thing.
Yeah, me neither.
They move on with the plot, and the Pakistani guy from the bad Marvel movie sells Dan Aykroyd a golden ball that has a ghost in it, and that ghost happens to be an evil ice demon man. Pretty much every big name in this movie was busy with scheduling conflicts, which means it's mostly about the little granddaughter character who befriends a friendly ghost who is a fire ghost, and the Pakistani man finds out he's a firebender, which is coincidentally exactly the thing they need to fight the ice ghost. And Dan Aykroyd is in the movie a lot, being silly and happy that he gets to do Ghostbusters again. And there's also a kid named Podcast that they probably could have cut.
Yeah, they brought back, yeah.
And they fight, they try to prevent the ice demon ghost from getting out of his little magic ball, and then he does, and there's a really embarrassing fight scene, complete with giant Marvel laser and every other cringe bad fight scene cliche. Connor, what'd you think of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire?
It was alright. It wasn't as bad as I hoped it would be. I was really hoping for a disaster. The trailer looked absolutely fucking horrid.
Mm-hmm.
The movie itself was decent. It was a little weird.
Yep.
It was
I concur.
proof that Ghostbusters can be Marvelized, and it's more effective than whatever Sony's original plan was. It is part of a dying breed. The last decade of film, 6 or 7 years, has been, aside from the last couple years, has been dominated by two types of movies. Cinematic universe movies, which this is now trying to start. So it's part of that trend, because they have the new title. I don't know if the last movie had this, but they have like the new Ghostbusters core sub-label of Sony.
Yep.
Ghostbusters core implies there's going to be like a world of Ghostbusters or some shit, I think. Definitely 100% Sony's plan. And then you have nostalgia bait fake sequels. At this point, I think it's fair to call them nostalgia bait fake sequels, because what people did in the 90s, 2000s, and 2010s is they said, let's remake an old movie. And they even tried that with Ghostbusters in 2016.
Yep.
And then Force Awakens popularized the idea of the long-term nostalgia sequel. You got, of course, the Star Wars sequels, no one cares about. The Jurassic World series, which no one cares about. The Ghostbusters Afterlife, which no one cares about. You even got like Halloween, and a lot of these start out with like a solid entry. This is an outlier that Ghostbusters was shit the whole time.
Ghostbusters Afterlife was fucking terrible.
But they start with a movie that's a total fucking retread, and that you're like, it's okay. Ghostbusters Afterlife was something totally different. It was trying to be Stranger Things, and I guess I've only seen 2 episodes of Stranger Things, but
it was
that's the vibe I was getting off, some nostalgia bait, slow piano with the Ray Parker, but slow and with piano. This movie was the inverse of that, where they tried something different that didn't work at all with Ghostbusters Afterlife. This one was just, what if we tried Ghostbusters, but we're not as funny? So we're going to try to do the nostalgia bait, but also we're going to hire some guy who pinky promise that it's just going to be a Marvel movie.
Yep.
And that's what they did. And it turned out as your average, what the fuck is happening to Marvel, which has kind of been the recent Marvel trend. This is like one of those like decent flash in the pans. I'm not gonna remember this in 3 weeks, but
it coincidentally lines up very well with Ant-Man.
It's like a Shang-Chi.
Which also stars Paul
Rudd.
Yeah, Paul Rudd's not in this movie.
The first Ant-Man.
Yeah, the first Ant-Man.
The one thing that is funny about this movie is everybody was contractually busy, so you see the two people that are able to show up for a substantial amount of time are the girl who plays Phoebe, because she's some child actor that's exclusively picked because they can perm her hair and make her look like Reitman or Egon from Ghostbusters, and you got Dan Aykroyd,
who can take a weekend off of Shill and Crystal Head vodka to be in this movie.
Yeah, I mean that company runs itself at this point. It's in liquor stores.
Much, yeah.
It was famous as the Dan Aykroyd liquor. Now it's just famous as bougie vodka, and to nerds like us, Dan Aykroyd liquor.
Yep.
But those two are riffing the whole time with a series of guest stars like Patton Oswalt and this and that. Yep. And the Indian or the Pakistani guy from the Eternals. I wish I knew his name. Eternals guy. We'll just call him Eternals guy, but that gets confusing because Patton Oswalt was also in Eternals, so we're gonna call him Pakistani guy from the Eternals.
He was also in the movie where he plays an Uber driver, and he is The Rock in that one, I think, or something.
I don't fucking know. Whatever.
He's the Uber guy.
Anyhow, the little girl is somewhat charming. She's a little nerd, Reitman, or not Reitman, fucking Egon. It works. It works pretty well. Her character, she like befriends a ghost, and there's like a question of if ghosts are evil, and it's like, well, not all ghosts are evil, just most of them. And the rules of ghosts are pretty unclear, but they never have been, even in the first Ghostbusters. But
also, you can
fine.
go into a machine and turn yourself into a ghost temporarily for some reason, which is
they added a bunch of
but
they added a couple side characters to kind of pad it, since I'm assuming at the time this was filming, Paul Rudd was busy with various Marvel and other projects. You had little Stranger Things kid who was probably working on Stranger Things when this shot.
Yeah.
You got Lady, Mom.
Stranger Things
Paul
kid
Rudd,
only shows
wife.
up in he has like a sub story where he fights Slimer repeatedly, which is not. That could have just been cut, honestly.
It could have been cut, and then the mom doesn't really have anything to do. She'll occasionally show up to be like, "I'm so mad at you," but really, a lot of her subplot is just with Paul Rudd, because I guess like with child labor laws, I don't know if that girl's actually a child, but probably.
It's her movie and Dan Aykroyd's movie.
It's her and Dan Aykroyd fucking around with that podcast kid. They made up contrived reasons to bring podcast kid, and then there was another girl who was friends with Stranger Things kid, and they're like, she's probably in the last movie. I don't remember, because they had like a moment where they hugged, and she's like, "Why?" He's like, "Why are you out here?" And she said, "I'm interning at Ghostbusters." And podcast, he's just there. And he's a character that could have just been left behind. And I think they realized podcast was annoying because they left him off to the side. He's kind of just he kind of just quietly third wheels with Dan Aykroyd and
at the start of the movie,
little girl.
At the start of the movie, he's there so Dan Aykroyd has someone to play off of, but then he keeps coming around for a while because they're like, I guess he has to be there. He probably just shouldn't have been, but...
The movie's occasionally funny. Actually, Pakistani guy from the Eternals, I thought his character was cheap. It was very much the Chris Hemsworth in Ghostbusters 2016, but done right. He's just a weird dumbass, but every time he's on screen, he's actually pretty funny.
Yeah.
Which, I like him as a comedic actor better than I'm going to take a bunch of steroids and get ripped and then be sad in the Eternals.
Yep.
Actually, the Eternals, he was funny in like the Bollywood scenes, and they forgot about that, and he was sad man.
Yeah.
He's running around sad man.
No, he's actually really good in this movie. And
he's good in this movie. He's funny.
They have lots of like fun little bits, like when he's being interrogated by Bill Murray.
Yeah.
About how he would eat a child and gets upset about it, and
Bill Murray
has funny little bits, and
him and Bill Murray were doing really good balancing off each other. Bill Murray is great when he's in the movie because you can tell he doesn't give a fuck, and they're like, Bill Murray's not gonna give a fuck He didn't even give a fuck about acting when he did Ghostbusters, which is the charm of the character, and the fact that he continues to not give a fuck works so well with the character. So it's perfect when he's in scenes. You can tell he barely wanted to be there, so they threw him in the climax and a couple scenes, but he's really not that important. And Ernie Hudson shows up sometimes, and he's kind of the voice of reason for the Ghostbusters. He's
runs
kind
like
of the everyman, but also
like a Ghostbusters super corporation that builds all the gear, which is kind of a weird idea.
He became like a rich businessman, and I guess it makes sense. And they added a new I think the only like fully new character, possibly friend intern lady, because I have no memory of Ghost Life Afterlife or her character. I didn't remember podcast either until they started saying the name, and I'm like, oh yeah, this fucking kid.
The scientist guy's the new character.
Yeah, scientist guy. I think he kind of. I was wondering if he was like one of the characters from like one of the cartoon shows, because he kind of looked like. But I think I was thinking of Egon's cartoon appearance, because Egon's just randomly like a blonde dude to make him stand out better in long shots. But he looks a lot like Egon from the cartoon. So I was wondering if this was like a cartoon character, because I knew there was one cartoon. Whatever, that doesn't really matter. That guy was kind of funny, and he wasn't in a ton of it, but he was less obnoxious than I don't know. But the little girl I remember being really annoying in the first movie, and this time around she did good. I thought she was a decent actor. It was kind of, the end was sort of Avengers-y. I thought, they're doing a good job, like look, it is an Avengers climax in a Ghostbusters movie, which I guess is the natural progression of them standing on a rooftop shooting lasers at Sigourney Weaver. But, yeah, I was like, at least they didn't shoot a giant cylinder laser in the sky. That's blue, a giant blue cylinder laser in the sky. I literally thought that like halfway through the fight scene. And then, like, 2 seconds later, a giant cylinder laser shoots in the sky, but it's red.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. It's cute. It's fine. It is the most preferable way I've seen them make a Ghostbusters movie since Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah.
Because you got the other two Sony movies, which are fucking garbage. This one is Dan Aykroyd getting to have fun playing his most famous role. Bill Murray shows up just as a favor because he's friends with Dan Aykroyd. Yep. Ernie Hudson shows up but plays it a little different because he wanted to do something different. And then the new cast is Bland Mom and Paul Rudd and the Stranger Things kid, who I think are both obnoxious looking and sounding and just existing. I just don't like their existence.
They're just straight sidelined.
They're totally sidelined because they're too busy doing other shit. So they had to write like an actual story for the little girl and give her the ghost lady to bounce off of, and the plot's fine. It was definitely ended a bit. Let's fight the CGI monster.
Yeah.
But
let's
overall,
fight Steppenwolf, bro.
Yeah, let's fight literally Steppenwolf. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I'd say, I'm not gonna say pretty good. I thought it was like flat good.
Yeah.
And it basically is a knockoff of like Phase 3 Marvel movies. I don't want to say like more recent stuff because recent Marvel movies have just been trash. There were a lot of groan-worthy references. There was a lot of eye-rolly moments. The best way to describe it, and I thought about this halfway through the movie, it's the Solo, the Star Wars story of the Ghostbusters, where it's a movie where you're like, fuck, I gotta watch this, and then it's surprisingly flat good, and then there's a lot of groan-worthy moments that Sony made it, or Disney in Solo's case, but that the studio made him put in, and then overall it manages to be a corny but decent nostalgia bait movie.
Yep.
And that's Ghostbusters Frozen World of Sin. Aiden, what did you think of the Frozen Ghostbusters?
I like 80% of the movie. The ending where they fight Steppenwolf is fucking terrible.
Yeah.
It's genuinely horrible. And the only thing that breathes any life into the final fight is the Pakistani guy who continues being the funny character.
Yeah, that guy's got to go back to funny roles. Well, I guess.
But I like a lot of those stuff. Like the intro, I think is really good, where the firefighters break into the room and all the people are frozen and fall apart. Is actually a really good
cold
kind of creepy
type
intro to start you off on and introduce the threat. And I think a lot of the stuff that happens in the middle, the first action scene where they chase the dragon thing is actually pretty decent, even if it's a little eye-rolly that it's an action movie scene. And I think Dan Aykroyd and the little girl have a fun little cute dynamic, and there's this kind of building mystery as they unravel what the orb is. And it's cute and fun, and the Pakistani guy is funny when they bring him in, and they get a lot of mileage out of him. I'm bad with names, but I think a majority of the setup and build-up in this movie is pretty decent, and I would say good. And then very abruptly, 10 minutes before the credits roll, the evil ice ghost gets out, and then they fight Steppenwolf, and it's really fucking stupid. But if you look past that, it's a pretty basic story where the little girl's feels dejected and doesn't fit in. She befriends the ghost and this and that, and the ghost has fire powers, so you're oh, the ghost is gonna become good and help her fight. Steppenwolf.
It wasn't not obvious when he said, "My letter is out of fluid. Oh no, what will I do?" And there's a lady who said, "I am a fire ghost because I was on fire. Look at these matches that'll be convenient in the third act."
Yeah. The ending fucking stinks. The fight against Steppenwolf, horrendous. But
okay, I will say. And I also like how it was Phoebe's fault, everything that happened in the entire end. But you gotta respect the corny Ghostbusters ending coming back of the civilians of New York who just immediately gather around the Ghostbusters firehouse to clap. They brought it back.
And then the evil mayor from the first movie, who was not the mayor in the first movie, but he is in this one, comes and he's like, "You Ghostbusters are gonna go to prison." And the people of New York start cheering, and he's like, "Actually, it would look bad if I said you guys are going to prison, so I love the Ghostbusters." And everyone claps the end. Literally, the credits roll. But yeah, it's 90% a flat good movie with a really fucking bad ending.
Yeah. And of course, like Solo, there's some eye rollers. There's a lot of eye rollers.
There's quite a few eye rollers
hidden throughout there. The mini Stay Puffs are back, but at least they didn't do. They did the little Cheetos ad with Stranger Things kid because it's what if I brag Slimer with Cheetos? And they do a close-up shot, and then Chester Cheetah says, delicious.
Yeah, the whole Slimer subplot.
But they at least didn't have Paul Rudd go to Walmart to fight the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
The Stay Puft Marshmallow babies that are very marketable, like Baby Groot.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Slimer subplot should have been cut because it was bad. But I did like it. I thought the little ghost that can possess anything was kind of inventive and fun as a minor antagonist throughout. Yeah, it's a flat, good, decent-ish movie with the worst fucking fight scene of all time at the end. The worst, most Marvel fight scene.
I don't know about that. It was marginally more creative than a lot of Marvel and DC fight scenes, but that's not really saying anything at this point.
It's a decent movie that has a Marvel bad ending, and I would almost say it's good. The ending is just upsettingly bad. It's one of those forgettable Marvel Phase 3 movies. You got Doctor Strange, which might not have been Phase 3, but that's an example. Ant-Man 2
Because I think Ant-Man 2 is the best of the three. The
Yeah.
first one's an Iron Man clone, the third one's downright bad, the second one he happened into the most forgettable yet whatever movie of all time.
Pretty much. Anyway,
and the two actors I dislike the most in it, Stranger Things kid who he looks really weird to me now. It's kind of the Miles Teller effect. And, or the guy who's also Miles Teller from Ready Player One.
Sure.
And Paul Rudd, they're barely in it.
Yeah. Anyway, I didn't hate it, and it was a lot better than the last one. The last two.
Yep. Surprisingly, what sounded like the worst concept in the world and looked absolutely terrible was...
Oh yeah, the trailer made this movie look fucking horrendous.
When I saw the trailer, I'm like, this might, like, surpass Madam Web, which also wasn't out at the time, but, like, to see both of them, I'm
I
like,
thought this
both
was
of
gonna
these
be,
are
I
going
thought
to be
this was gonna be a
legendarily
fucking-
bad.
I thought this was going to be a Madam Web tier train.
I thought they were going for 4 this year,
I was
because Venom
pleasantly
3 is
surprised.
coming out, and Craven. I don't have as much faith for Venom 3 or Craven. I have no faith for anything Sony, but,
Yeah, this one surprisingly worked pretty well.
yep.
Would you recommend Ghostbusters Frozen Empire?
Yeah. I mean, it's their best. Ghostbusters, the original, was lightning in the bottle. Ghostbusters 2 wasn't as good. This movie wasn't as good as Ghostbusters or Ghostbusters 2, but ultimately, the only Ghostbusters that'll ever be classic and not just... Ghostbusters was such a lightning in a bottle movie that happens to be marketable, or at least something that Sony is trying their fucking best to make marketable, despite the fact that COVID movie didn't catch on and 2016 was a laughable embarrassment. This was what I imagine a solid-ish, flat, good attempt at a modern remake of Ghostbusters would be. Not remake, but modern sequel to Ghostbusters would be.
Yep.
And if you want a flat, good, modern remake of Ghostbusters that's boring, just a fun popcorn eater, then you probably have a good enough time. You won't hate Ghostbusters Afterlife, you might have a okay time. And there's some funny moments in there. Good action. So, not good action. Mostly just funny moments and likable characters.
Yep.
Some likable characters in there. So yeah, I guess I soft recommend mostly if you have a soft spot for Ghostbusters and just want something stupid to watch. Aiden, do you recommend Ghostbusters Frozen Empire?
I'm calling this one a streamer.
Yeah, streamer is probably a good.
I think when it's inevitably on...
I don't know if this is a streamer. I think I disagree with your opinion. Because I feel like this is a go to the theater, eat popcorn, and never remember again movie.
I mean, yeah.
That's a distinct thing. The movies are of similar qualities to the flat streamers. But this is a movie to go to the theater and eat popcorn and then turn your brain off as you suck down a giant soda like we have.
I feel like this is a movie where you get the one-day Amazon rental for $5 and say, that was alright. That's what I feel.
And we couldn't ask for anything more. But next week, we have the ultimate kaiju movie to add to our Godzilla playlist.
Yep.
Godzilla X Kong, The Frozen Empire. Actually, I think it's called
The
literally
Lost Empire.
Yeah, a lot of empires coming up lately. I think my
poster?
prediction for Godzilla X Kong, The Lost Empire, strikingly similar to Ghostbusters, but it could be worse. Not similar plot-wise, but like
I don't know what to make.
perception.
When we walked out of Ghostbusters, I saw the Godzilla X Kong Great Lost Empire poster where King Kong and Godzilla are running side by side and King Kong has a robot arm. And it's either going to be fucking horrendous or it's going to be Furious 7. I don't think it's going to land in the goodish okay category.
Yeah.
It's either going to be a 1 or a 5.
Looking at the trailers, it does give off the possibly the worst one yet. I don't think they got Millie Bobby Brown. I think she was freed of her contract after the last one. That's kind of the problem with the MonsterVerse. I mean, it's kind of just been a perpetual Godzilla thing. Human protagonists come and go. Maybe they get Aaron Taylor Johnson back.
He's James Bond now, and he only wants to be in movies that advance the culture, like Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah, after his comments about Aaron Taylor Johnson made a comment that Hollywood makes too much trash these days, and a lot of the movies don't mean anything. Aaron Taylor Johnson,
who stars in Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah, he's starring in a Marvel knockoff movie. Get way up, hop off that high horse, my friend. You can't star in a Sony Pictures universe of Spider-Man, not Spider-Man in it, but like just to elaborate, Spider-Man universe of Sony TM movie and say that you're for the culture. But Dakota Johnson did the same thing, so now since Sony got bullied by Dakota Johnson, I'm sure Aaron Taylor Johnson, since he has James Bond coming up, which is just automatically defines your career, even if you're a dog shit James Bond. Yeah. I mean, his career is now defined by a movie that's coming out, so none of it matters before or after.
Pretty much.
In terms of it, in terms of his legacy, so Kraven the Hunter is probably gonna be a drop in the bucket. I don't think he would be signed on to James Bond if Eon and him didn't say, well, there's a 100% chance Kraven the Hunter is not going to become a franchise, so we don't have to worry about contractual obligations here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although Sony puts out the last like 2 James Bond movies, so
do you think he's contractually obligated to cameo in Sinister Six?
I'm sure.
As Kraven the Hunter.
No, it's James Bond.
Oh yeah, Sinister Six.
MGM's not a thing anymore.
He plays James Bond in the Sinister Six movie alongside Morbius and fucking Vulture.
MGM and MGM teamed up with Sony to put out No Time to Die, and I bet you since MGM is owned by Amazon now, they're probably it's gonna be a Sony MGM Amazon production of James Bond starring Aaron Taylor Johnson,
featuring fucking Morbius.
Featuring Jared Leto as the Tron. Jared Leto's Tron comes out next year, Tron 3. They'll probably call it Tron E, the reverse of using a 3 as an E. Is an E as a 3.
I thought it already had some stupid name like Tron Voidwalker or some bullshit.
Tron Enter the Requiem. Tron Requiem for a Dream. And he's like, I'm doing heroin in the computer. How the fuck does who is Jared Leto fucking stem cell eating fetuses with Hillary Clinton or something? Like, who does he got beat? He must have blackmail with every studio, because it's not one studio that continues to hire him. Warner Brothers, Sony, Disney.
Just keep giving him money.
What orgies is this guy getting invited to? Amy Pascal, gangbang?
I don't know, man. He's got leverage of some kind.
He's got something, because I mean, he was good in Requiem for a Dream 25 years ago.
Yep, and he was never good again.
Yeah, like every other fucking washed up actor that had a hit with Darren Aronofsky didn't get the leverage that Jared Leto has. Jared Leto has like a small cult of fans, but I just don't get it. And they try to make him relatable by like having him climb the Empire State Building and be like, I did it for cancer. Or something.
Yeah, he's a crazy person. Anyway.
Ghostbusters. You know how many beer you want as long as it's Corona.